Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be a part of what we expect to be a timely and practical conversation. My name is Denise Benson, and I'm the CMO at Blue Summit. My work focuses on workforce development and helping organizations and professionals navigate change, particularly when it comes to emerging skills and evolving roles. Today's discussion sits squarely at that intersection. We're here to talk about how artificial intelligence, AI, is changing the workforce, not as some distant future concept, but as something already affecting how work is being done, how roles are being defined, and how organizations are competing. Many professionals are being told to use AI, yet there's really no clarity around what that actually means in practice or how to prepare for it effectively. I'm pleased to be moderating today's discussion with Derek Beck and Bill Becker, who bring deep expertise and experience across project leadership, workforce development, and applied AI training. And rather than some traditional presentation today, it's going to be a conversation, one that draws on our real-world examples and lessons learned from working with organizations that are already navigating these changes. So over the next hour, we're going to focus on three core areas. How is AI displacing, creating, and transforming job roles? The widening AI skills gap and what it takes to close it. And then practical strategies for upskilling, reskilling, and preparing the workforce for AI-enabled work. We really want this to be an interactive discussion, so please feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask a question, or you can post questions in the Q&A at any point, and we'll do our best to address them as we go. Your questions are going to help shape the conversation, and we're also going to do a couple polls throughout to see where everyone is with AI currently. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So Bill and Derek, welcome. Thank you for being here today. We want to start off with talking about where you are seeing AI change job roles most quickly right now, and not like the hypothetical where it's changing, like where it's actually being changed in practice today.
Thanks, Denise. First, congratulations on your promotion to CEO of Blue Summit. So, my answer is every job, right? This is something that's the biggest thing since the Industrial Revolution. One thing I do want to make sure everyone understands, because there is change and displacement, but these headlines you see that citywide amounts of people being wiped out, 10,000, 19,000 layoffs because of AI, those are lies. That is to appease Wall Street, or the jobs are going overseas. So if there's anyone out there with that anxiety, the layoffs are real, but it's very important that you understand. And that's why we're here today to talk about what's really going on with AI and how you can benefit from it. I think the big thing is it's less coming for your job, absolutely coming for your tasks. And that can be a good thing, right, Derek?
That's absolutely a good thing, Bill. And thank you, Denise, for putting this together and having this on. And before I kind of answer that too, I also just want to say thank you to Bill for all the help in getting set up. We are now a platinum authorized training partner with AI CERTs, and that's who Bill is representing here today. And they have a whole host of amazing self-paced e-learning, and of course we could do them in person too, but courses related specifically to the topics of AI, and role-based courses on top of that. And I think they're affordable and they're accessible, and I think it's an incredibly important offering for us to have, and a partnership for us to have with you, because it speaks directly to our mission, which is to help people prepare for the future of work, and to just improve professionally and personally, and specifically with AI and what's happening with workforce displacement too, because like you said, Bill, I agree with you in that in that they're coming for your tasks. I like the way you frame that. It's the AI is not necessarily, it can't replace a human. I mean, it takes 40 minutes for the most advanced machine learning algorithm to do something that one human neuron can do in a couple seconds, right? So, there's other things too when we talk about the technical aspects of AI and machine learning, what's happening under the hood. When we talk about data and making inferences and all these kind of things. I heard Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, say the other day, it's just amazing how a human brain can take maybe a couple data points and make about 1 million different inferences incredibly accurately, whereas the computer needs 1 million different data points to make a couple of inferences accurately, right?
I
So,
love that.
you know what I mean? So the replacement of the human is a misnomer. I think the nature of the work necessarily has to change, and for a good thing. Simple things like speech to text. Something I'm using more and more often is this tool called Whisper Flow, where I mean I can type maybe 40, 50 words a minute, but I can speak at 160 or 190 words a minute, and just that savings alone, without having to just type stupid things out, because it uses AI to format everything based on what tool I'm using, right. So it's smart enough to know if I'm on an email or on a text or on a chat, and it formats it accordingly to my style that I've given it. And so I think it's so just time savings, but then the important piece is what do you do with that time savings, right?
Absolutely.
And if what you do with it is, hey, I just did something in 5 minutes that would have taken me 3 hours. Let me go take a 3 hour break. You have effectively done nothing. You've changed nothing. There is no increase in your output or your productivity or anything like that too. And so, the human in the loop piece, right? And that's the humans can't go away also because of that. I mean, you have to be there to regulate the AI and to verify and validate the AI and correct the AI when it doesn't get the context right, and just things like that. So, but I
This
think what ends up being important is how do you use the tool, and do you know how to use it, and do you know how it works and what it actually is doing under the hood? That's all really important stuff to know, even for somebody who's just using it casually.
for sure. And by the way, speech to text is my new spell check. So
Yeah.
um, if I get really stuck, yeah, I just hit that little microphone. But you
Yeah.
think about that. If you can free up 2, 3, hours a week, you can become a much more productive employee. And in
Yeah.
spending your time on these mundane tasks, you can go and use your institutional knowledge that you've built up over your career, regardless of what your job role is, and help find new revenue streams, help find better efficiencies. And that is why, people should embrace it, because the opportunity to have better job satisfaction, have better job security, that's the key takeaway from all this. Because I always joke, you can't go 5 minutes and not hear those two letters, right? So everyone's thinking about it,
Yeah.
but there's some, important takeaways here.
So I think,
I would like to, so as a
okay.
project manager, I feel like the biggest time saver, right, is I can use AI to do all sort of like the data management, the data like analysis and everything. And then that helps me spend more time just communicating with my stakeholders or my team members or whatever, right? Which is really like what project managers are needed for, right? We say that like 80-90% of our job is communication. But if we're spending all this time trying to like do data analysis to even just see how our project's going and if it's progressing the way it's supposed to be, then we're not doing that. So I want to go ahead and like send out the first poll. So this poll is about our AI usage. So please, where's the button? So please go ahead and answer the question. So just so we can get a good sense of how people are currently using AI.
On that, Denise, if there, if there's managers, executives out there going that, no one in our company is using AI yet, pretty certain you're wrong. Smart executives realize at the very least, right? ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever, but people are using it. And you want to make sure that you get your arms around it and figure out, the best way, because you're going to adopt it and then you're going to adapt it.
Okay. Can you guys see the poll?
Yes.
Okay.
It came
Okay.
up. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't
Great.
think
So
I'm
it
allowed to
looks like,
vote.
most of you guys are using it at least occasionally or, trying to like use it. And I think that's where like, I know in my own growth is like, yeah, is just really understanding how I can use it more effectively. Because I don't want it to take up more time, right? Trying to figure it out than it does actually save me in trying to get the work done. But it
Yeah.
does seem like people are at least starting to use it. Only one person said that they aren't using it at all. So hopefully we can convince them that, at least like help them find a way to do that. All right.
I
Uh,
think everybody's looking for, like you said, you're using something like a chat GPT or whatever, but that's just a small part on how to do that. It's going to absolutely be you know, your entry into it, but this is something that you think about it. You can learn anything you want for free on the internet, right? So what would you do? You want to go learn this AI thing. Well, if you're smart, you go look at case studies. How is AI being used in your industry? Also, not a bad idea to go look at case studies in other industries, because what's going on in manufacturing or healthcare might work in some other industry. So you want to do that and then figure out, okay, this is how it would work in my company. The next thing is you want to go research AI tools that are specific to your job role. And spoiler alert, there's a bunch of them. So at some point you want to go in there and do some free trials and get your hands dirty. And guess what? You're AI ready. But the big thing is prove it. And,
yeah.
that's you want to be able to prove it, to your boss, if you're out looking for a job or a better job, that's the big thing, is you want to get AI ready and be able to prove it.
That's right. And that's
Yeah.
what I like about our courses because we talk about that a lot. Like, our upcoming leading AI projects course, for example, it's not a CPM AI exam prep. It is a teach you how to do the job thing. However, you also need the certification to follow. And that's so it's like hey, when you get done with these two things, you'll get the skills from our leading AI projects, but you're going to prove your knowledge, right? And that by applying it to a knowledge-based exam, so you'll have the skills to actually perform on the job and be able to talk credibly when you get to the interviews, but you're going to get that certification to sort of prove your base knowledge base and then right and then get to the interview so you can then talk to it, right? And that's what I like about AI certs too is that it's role based and it's really broad. It touches on a lot of key roles that are where AI is impacting them directly today, and there's even hands-on exercises in a lot of them too, right? Which I thought was really fascinating. I've been going through the courses myself, and I think they're incredibly helpful. I think they're great, to be honest, and they're so deep, right, in the information that they cover on, and then the hands-on stuff that goes with it. So you're not only gaining the skills as you go through it, you're not just listening and gaining knowledge, right? You're actually putting your hands on stuff in the AI certs classes. And then at the end, you take an exam and you can actually show that as a certification. So it's this kind of the same concept, right? But it's role based. And we could say, okay, as a project manager, I could take this class. I can work on and gain some skills, and then I can get a certification to show employers that, I've also then proven and tested my knowledge against an exam, right? That tested it. Right. And so then you should ideally be able to talk very intelligently by the end of that, not just pass a test, right? But then also be able to speak intelligently and perform intelligently with those new skills that you learned. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about the AI certs programs.
Well, I appreciate that. And one of the things that I think I told Derek this, but I came out of retirement to join AI Certs last year because I was so impressed with the concept. The other thing too that about the courses is, we like to say multimodality. So there's multiple ways you can learn and go through every single lesson in a course. You can listen to the instructor, or if it's self-paced, watch the the video. You can read the ebook. If you're like me, I watch the videos with the closed captioning on. There's also two audio versions. There's a traditional audio book, and then there's also a podcast. And podcasts are super popular today because they'll listen to a lesson while they're working out, walking the dog, doing laundry. So multiple ways to consume, because not everyone learns the same way. We all have different preferences, right?
Right. No, that's right, and also preference based on like time, right? And you don't always have time to just read through stuff, so it's also kind of nice if you're in the car, you can just pipe the audio and just listen to a podcast on a subject, or even just run the video itself, and just put it on your seat or something. So hands free, be safe. Safety's our first priority here at Blue Summit. So,
Absolutely.
so but right, and so I think that having the optionality is also very important too. But where would somebody start? Like, where do you see people starting to learn AI with your programs?
Sure. There's a couple different things, and that's again the beauty of the different courses. So at the very least, an individual should have basic AI literacy. So there's a couple options for that. Also think, we talked about ChatGPT and Copilot. Today, 2020, 2026, learning how to write great prompts, no longer a nice to have career skill. It's a must have. So learning how to write great prompts is just, even if that's you stop there, that's an amazing, valuable career skill. And then you go into, the different role-based courses. And if you're an executive, there's also courses there too. Again, it's a unique time in history, right? So I come from the traditional IT training company. And, back in the day, we would make, bank doing 5-day SQL classes. Maybe 1% of the world even knows what SQL is, right? The entire world has at least heard of AI. So again, if the managers, directors, owners out there, this is something where your entire company, at the very least, needs a baseline of some AI literacy, and then go up into, role specific courses, marketing, sales, law.
Yeah, which we have. We have courses now for all of those roles, which I think is pretty incredible. So how do you see AI affecting things like project management? So I know a lot of our audience is project managers or some sort of, business leader of or of some sort, right? How do you see AI being implemented or in that space?
Well, I'll follow up with Denise said a little bit earlier to, freeze up time for these mundane tasks, and also fit in, sales. So I've been a salesperson my entire life, and I wrote a book about sales careers, and I don't sell anything. I figure stuff out. That's the clean version. But you think about that. If you're a project manager and you have all these tasks that you no longer have to deal with, you have this knowledge to figure out, what are some roadblocks? What are some creative ways to get over a hump? What are some creative ways to take what we did on this project and apply it to a new one? So I'm a big believer about using institutional knowledge in the years that people have been in the job, been in the industry. If you get rid of all those crazy, boring tasks and use your head to create new things, that's the exciting part about AI to me.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. But it's interesting. Gartner had a study out, I think maybe last year, whatever, said maybe the year before, and it said by 2030, 80% of all project management tasks will be run by AI. And so this is as of a couple of years ago before, give it a week and we have a new capability in AI, right? But like, so this is something that people have been looking at for quite some time. But I think that also speaks to where project managers really, I think, live, which is the leadership piece, right? Because people are going to start to question value and worth as they see AI take on more tasks. And so people have to then be able to see, well, where are those avenues that I now fit? And like Denise said, it's the human side of things. It's the human side of change. It's the human side of, just team coordination and management in that respect. And, where I see things going in project management And I already saw it now. CES, I called it out before CES 2026, but in CES there are already some products trying to beat OpenAI to the market. Where I foresee in the next 6 to 12 months there's going to be a big product release. It's going to be an always on with the option to shut it off type device that will just be always collecting context for your space. So, for example, you might be a necklace or something that fits in your pocket, like a note taker kind of device, right? But it's going to be where, hey, Bill, you're my boss and you just tasked me with running a project, and maybe I don't have any training in that. And I can say, well, shoot, hey, chat, what's a project, right? And then and my pipe into my ear, my Meta Ray-Ban glasses, something that tells me what a project is. And I saw that CES. What CES is, it's a big tech conference that happens in Las Vegas every January.
You know what I took
And
from
they
that
introduced all
conference?
the new prototypes and new fangled devices that are coming out in the next, decade, kind of thing. It's everybody showing everything off. And some of them are going to market in the next couple months, and some, intend to just say, hey, this is just where we're, researching. So it's a really good place to get. It's like the auto shows, right, where they show a car designs that may never come out, or they may come out 20 years from now. It's like that, but for technology.
You buried the lead for me for that show because what I saw was a 130-inch Samsung TV that's coming
Yeah.
out. So,
Yeah,
um,
but I think that's where that's going to affect some of us in the workplace, though, too, but it'll make our lives easier if we understand how to use it, because you can then task things because it'll be connected through the cloud, man. It'll be connected to the cloud, and then you could start tasking things and then have things ready for you when you get back to your desk. Hey, add that meeting note to my OneNote on this or planner, and these tasks to this planner or whatever. It might be automated in that case, where it just hears things and automatically pipes things to your notes and your planners and whatever project planning tool you have. And you might even be able to task it along the way. Hey, build a stakeholder engagement plan for this. Or, hey, I just talked to Bill Becker. It looks like he's now on the thing. I could be walking to my next meeting and just talking to myself and say, hey, seems like Bill Becker's now on this thing. Add him to my stakeholder register. And you know what? While you're at it, do some research on Bill Becker, on what his background is, and help me devise some, an engagement plan so I can keep Bill happy for this. And this is going to be his role. And then I leave and I go. And when I come back to my desk, it's right there waiting for me, all added to my thing. And so I think that's the advanced future, right? But when I say advanced, I mean I literally think we're going to start seeing this type of stuff start to show up in its early innings, and probably the next 6 to 12 months. And I think that's how fast things are moving.
yeah. First, doing background check on me, that sounds terrifying. But everything you talked about, the way I think of that is that's automating best practices, right?
Yeah.
And as a salesperson, a lifelong salesperson, I've said, AI is never going to replace, especially in business to business. And this kind of applies, even for project managers. My previous employer, when I left, the guy who became the top salesperson, that was his first sales job. He was in project management before
Uh,
that. And so,
okay.
project management and sales, that's why I talk about this a lot. There's a lot of similarities, but regardless of your role, yeah, AI is going to be able to, automate tasks, help do for best practices, but what it can't do, and this is where back to Bill talking about institutional knowledge again, what not to do. And I'll give you a great example. Back in the day when I ran a training center, I had guys that did a lot of SharePoint training. They also did SharePoint consulting on the side. And almost all of that consulting was fixing mistakes. They even came up with the verb. They go, oh, you've been SharePooed. But you can imagine someone sitting in a 5-day class, they really sat up and they were talking about what not to do. When you're doing business to business sales, people, they're less buying features and benefits and stuff. You make the wrong, go back to the TV, you make the wrong purchase of a TV, you're out a few $100s, a couple $1,000s. If you make the wrong purchase or wrong decision within your company, your job could be at stake. So learning what not to do is just as valuable as best practices. And I think that's the unsung hero of AI, is allowing people to go in and look at things. I don't have to deal with all this nonsense that took me 3 days, and
Yeah.
now it's, for a couple hours. I can go in there. It's like, all right, hey, you want to be careful here. You don't want to do this. Those are the cool things that don't get talked about enough.
I want
Yeah.
to interrupt here and just like talk about we've talked about how AI is needed and there's like gaps, like and kind of what those gaps are, because I think what we highlighted is that just like as individuals, we don't necessarily or even organizations, we don't understand all the tools that are available to us, right? And then even if we are aware of those tools, like how to actually use them in an effective way becomes a challenge. And so I also just kind of want to hit, if you guys can talk about like kind of the difference of looking at AI upscaling or implementation. I think there's like two, like the individual level versus the organizational level, and the different kind of considerations that you might look at as far as like how you implement those practices or those tools, but then also like how you do training and upskilling around those tools.
I'll take the training part and go back to what I said, earlier about case studies and tools. That's the flow of AI CERTs course that Blue Summit has is there's a lecture, right? Either a live person or a video. And at some point in that lecture, it goes, all right, let's go look at some case studies that are relevant to your industry. A little bit later, all right, let's go play with some AI tools that people in your job role are using today. You're not going to become proficient. You do get your hands dirty. And the idea at the end is, you know what? I saw 3 or 4 tools during that training. I'm going to go spend more time with that one. And on top of it, that, as an additional resource in every course, there's a PDF of 10 to 20 other AI tools that we've curated for that specific job roles. We say, hey, maybe you should go take a look at these because there's a lot. So the idea is just get some, a little bit of hands-on practice, figure out which one you want to do. And then obviously from an enterprise-wide deal, you want to make sure that people are learning best practices. Don't put, company information into a prompt. Make sure you have good guardrails. And the beauty of the certification is, all right, I know I got to get my entire company AI ready. So I want to make sure I got a good return on my investment. That's where the certification comes in.
Derek, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any feedback while other people were talking, in case there wasn't. No, but yeah, no, I think that's accurate. I think if I understood the questioning correct, I do think there's different levels of knowledge about AI and some expectation setting. I think at every different level, right? I think at the executive level, talking about what AI is, because so for example, I can use AI, and I actually do this a lot, where I actually don't really mess with spreadsheets very much anymore on my own, because that's just data movement. That's very structured data. That's data analysis. That's data science and data engineering. It's not actually touching AI, even though I'm using an AI, an LLM to help me with that task. It becomes very accurate then, because I'm just actually moving data around. So, from the executive level, even just something as simple as saying, are you sure you actually need an AI solution here, or do you just need better Power Automate setups and workflows, right, on Power Automate here, and then also understanding too, like, I've already seen this where people want to hire an AI project manager, and instead of going for the person who understands data science, right, and data driven decision making, they're really looking for people who understand how to write Python and code. And that's the biggest mistake, because we think that AI is coding and it has to deal with software engineering. That's actually a very small component of building and delivering AI solutions. That's just a user interface piece and an app, and it's very deterministic. That's not AI. AI is data science. It's labeling, it's cleaning, it's right imputation, it's data pipelines, it's data, right? Like it's all
Mhm.
data data science and data engineering, and very little of it ends up being, on the engineering side. Even machine learning engineering is a very small component of that, because in most cases, you're not the one building the models anymore. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, guess what? They've already done the hard work. And there's so many like open source models. They're already built. You're not going to build a model, I promise you. You're probably going to take something that's already been built and implement it into a workflow, or add documentation or customization through LoRa's or some other technique of fine tuning a pre-trained model, for example. And then you're going to do it. But again, you're just adding data to something, to a workflow. And so, and then the more technical knowledge has, the lower, I don't want to say the lower you get, but the more closer to the problem you get, the more technical you have to then become, right? And so I think that becomes a big difference. But I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what AI actually it is, and then what it can do. So having the right expectations at every level of what it can actually do for you, and then you said something really important, Bill. ROI. That is huge. And it's very, very challenging to not only define what ROI should be for an AI initiative or for AI within an organization, I think, but it's also very difficult to track and monitor, because schedules are dynamic, right? The scoping can be very dynamic. When you deal with data, you don't know what you have until you get it, kind of stuff, And so how do you schedule for that? And that costs money, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of rework involved. And traditionally, we think of rework as waste and it's bad, but in AI development, you have to understand that that's a key thing. And so I think there's also going to have to be that mindset shift. I guess talking about this level from the organizational perspective, there has to be this mindset shift that we have to build in those buffers, with an understanding that we're going to make all the best plans in the world, but we're going to have to probably go backwards a few times, right? And rethink things once we actually, as the project evolves. So it's almost one of those things where your project or your initiative, it'll go forward 50 steps, and then it'll take a step back, 20 steps back, and then you're going to take 50 more steps. It's going to be very incremental improvement, and not so much just a straight through traditional project, right? Or something that you might drive within your organization. So I think there's some understanding that has to happen there at the organizational level, at each level, as appropriate to their position in the organization.
I
So
would
I
love
just kind
to.
of want to, oh, sorry, but I just
No,
kind of want to sum up, because I feel like you guys made some very important points, but I think there's maybe some subtle like differences that I just want to point out for sure. So like at the individual level, and there's like skills that we need to learn, right? Like how to write prompts, how to use it for our specific job and role. But then Derek, where Derek was talking about the from an organizational standpoint, how are you choosing which AI you're going to use in your business, right? Who's going to, who's going to use it? Are you building your own tools? And then how do you implement that from the bigger organizational perspective? And so that comes into more like a project management, data science, data engineer role, right? So like, how are you actually building the AI platforms, or implementing AI usage, right? So that's one whole different aspect of training that comes in, that really has nothing to do with like how to use AI. But then there's like how to use it, right? And so I think that those are two different aspects that we kind of touch base like through your guys' discussion on this question. But I just want to make sure that that's really highlighted for the audience, so they can understand like there's two different approaches or perspectives we need to look at when we're talking about like upskilling or implementing AI within an organization or at the individual level. We have a question that came in from the Q&A. If you guys want, like someone's asking if we could talk about some different examples of like different types of prompts that you can use in an AI tool.
oh, I mean, it's what does your mind come up with? And that's the beauty of it. So I'll just, from a simple point of view, is just, whatever you put in. When I first heard of AI years ago, it's like, ChatGPT. Oh, it's a glorified search engine. Not 100% wrong, but there's so much more. So when you start out writing prompts, usually you also get some follow up. We can do this. How would you like me to, ask that? But the answer is that, no one will be happy with is it depends, because there's no right or wrong way. It's just the best way is to go in, practice. I've done stuff where, whenever I watch a TV or movie on TV, I used to Wikipedia the heck out of it. Now I chat GPT it and find out new things. So just on your own, you'll see, without just to get some baseline knowledge, is just go out. There's nothing you can break. Nothing bad's going to happen. And the practice, and use your knowledge of your job, your industry, and I think you're going to be really excited to see what comes back, and then it's going to become addictive. I promise you.
Yeah, and my answer to that is, I think the prompting part is still very, very important. And when you talk about the anatomy of a prompt, we've kind of identified 9 different things, right? That become, what is the role? So before I get into that, what I think makes a good prompt is context. So not instead of prompt engineering, but in addition to prompt engineering, you also have to think about context engineering, because you can add project files and special instructions to customize your system prompting within the system, right? Because there's user prompts, what you put into the little chat bubble, and then there's system prompts, which you can put at a project level or at a global level within your tool. I don't know if you knew that, but go look at your settings; it's in there. But they all kind of have so it's context engineering. And so if you could tell it the role or the persona it's going to take, hey, analyze my website from the perspective of a potential client and tell me what that looks like, and give it a grade, and then provide some recommendations to improve that website. For example, you could do something like that. You could say, hey, I need you to think like I have to give a brief to the CEO. Boom, you just told it that you're someone's lower than the CEO, and the audience is going to be the CEO. So you need the role, the persona of the audience. What am I doing? Who am I? What am I doing? Who am I doing it for? Why am I doing it? And then what's the task? What's the task, and what's the context behind? Like if you have an output that you prefer, for example, there's a specific tone or style that you like, put that in there, right? Because the less that you put in, the more creative freedom you're giving to the AI. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe you don't really know what you want. So you're rolling the dice to see what the statisticians, right? The statistics say is somewhat closely related to what you've asked about to that point, right? So, but the more instruction you give it, the tighter that probability window becomes. And so the more exact your feedback is going to be. So the more clear that you get on what you want, and the more context that it has around your situation, I think the more accurate your prompt is going to be. So again, role, persona, task, the context, constraints, criteria. Don't factor this. Don't consider this. These. I want you to look at these specific markets. I want you to look at these specific metrics. Whatever. Tone and style, the audience. Who are you doing it for? The output format. Exclusions. If you're writing an image, maybe you're creating an image. Don't include text. Or do include text. Don't include people. No sunglasses, right? Like you can actually do these sort of negative prompting things in your prompt too. And then maybe if you have it, give it some examples. I've done that a lot too, where I say, hey, here's some examples. This always kind of equates or relates to this. Here's some examples of what I'm talking about. So where you find these situations, I need you to make these connections, because that's what we're talking about. And so it does that. And that's where I like speech to text also within chat, because I can just diarrhea of the mouth, and then I don't have to worry about getting grammar correct or anything like that. And it just knows. And I get more context that way, because I can get it all out of my head, right, in a fast pace, and then it just gives me what I want typically. So yeah, so I think of context engineering. So again, a good example would just be something like, I am the CEO of Blue Summit, and I'm about to give a presentation to a group of very experienced technical project managers on the topic of AI. Here's how they came to us, and all this kind of stuff. Now, here's what I'll tell you though: the longer you get in your text, your prompt, there's a lost in the middle effect. right? And so you got to make sure that your instructions are clear at the beginning and then repeated or made clear at the end. Anything in the middle could potentially get lost because it's all statistics on probability. And so the AI is going to take all your words, chop them up into little tokens, and they're going to say, okay, here's where I think these things should be weighted as far as importance goes, and how I'm going to then use my whatever tokens I have remaining to give you an output, right? And so it's trying to make its best guess. And so it thinks that things that you say in the beginning, things that you say in the end are more likely to be more relevant and more important to you than the things you put in the middle. Does that make sense? So keep your task and your instructions at the beginning and or end, and then leave context for the middle and make a little prompt hamburger.
It's an amazing answer. You should clip that and just sell those last 3 minutes. Serious.
A prompt burger.
I
It's
will
just a
say
big
that one
prompt
tip
burger.
that I will say that one tip that I learned too that I find really helpful is like ask it how to ask the question, right? Like, so I tell ChatGPT like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, right? Ask me 5 questions that will help you understand what it is that I am trying to do and what I want. And then it'll ask, and sometimes like I have to like, okay, can we just do one question at a time, right? Because it becomes a lot. But if you ask it, it will actually help you figure out how to get to the answer. And it's like a conversation, right? You can't just put in a prompt and then expect a good answer. You have to kind of like go back and forth. Like, I like this part, but I don't like this. You missed this part, right? Oh, here's some more context that I didn't give before that might change it. So, I mean, I think that it's not going to be like just a straightforward, like you put in a question and
I've had ChatGPT reference previous prompts, from like 2 weeks ago. When it says my name, and then it's like, oh, it knows who I am. And then like, and they know that I work for AI CERTs. And like, so this would be, and it was something that wasn't even AI CERTs related, right? It was asking something on the weekend, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. So it learns, and it's just, that's why I encourage people just start writing prompts and using the suggestions that Derek gave. And I love the 5 questions from Denise. And there's also an amazing 2 prompting classes too that AI CERTs has.
Yeah,
that's right. We have a 1 and 2, and I haven't dug into prompt engineering 2 just yet. But what are the differences of those?
So and I hate the word engineer on the first one. And I believe I believe that I have won that battle. So we're getting close to removing that because it's in our essentials bundle, right? It's not a technical course and simply writing good prompts. So everything that we talked about, the layperson, how best way to, do your job better and free up tasks. The level 2 that, will remain having the word engineer in is, that's where you get into enterprise level type of, prompting and setting up different avenues to do that. So that one's a 1 day, 6-8 hours e-learning, or the other one's, 5 day, 40 hour. So that's a big part. It's just everyone prompt engineer, prompting level 1, and then people who are going to be, usually in the IT department, that are going to be setting up some things. That's where the other one comes in.
I see. So you're talking, and I think this is an important distinction, because prompt engineering is an actual job position, right? So it's like I feel like kind of like what you were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But like the reason why prompt engineering 1 probably in my mind my assessment anyway, my guess as to why it would not sit right with you is the same reason why it would not sit with me. And my reasoning anyway is because what that is talking about is user prompting, which is what we've been talking about, right? The casual or even advanced user of a AI tool for prompting. But prompt engineering goes so much deeper. I mean, there's some system prompting that you can then influence through those system instructions, like I was telling you, project instructions or system instructions. But on the back end of AI, on the back end of the AI is there are prompts that a prompt engineer has to constantly tweak and mess with, and that's what gives the AI its guardrails and its guidance on how it interacts with you. And it's kind of the intermediary, it kind of tells that language model how it's supposed to behave after it receives your request, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what prompt engineer, they're constantly tweaking that stuff to make sure that it's that, to halt not cyber attacks, but like prompt injection attacks, and to identify when someone is asking for something nefarious, or right, for those things. And so it kind of sets up some guardrails and things like that, so you can have some sort of like, it's trustworthy, responsible, ethical, transparent AI type stuff on the governance side. And so I feel like that gets really, really deep in the weeds of like the tokenization and embedding and really understanding how deep learning works at a deeper level and how machine learning works at a deeper level than the casual user would have to know. Right? Would I be
Sure.
right in that assessment? Or
Yeah,
or
no, absolutely. I mean, think about this. 2 years ago, a prompt engineer was a big. There were all kinds of job openings for prompt engineers.
Hmm.
yeah.
And those ones were just, hey, just writing, everyday prompts. Now that's how fast this landscape is changing. And a big takeaway on these changes is, for those of you that are old enough to remember, this whole AI thing is not another year 2000 bug nonsense. This is not, an 18-month, 2-year rush. It's like, great, we got past this AI stuff. This is ongoing. So enterprise, companies are going to adopt AI. And then, as Derek had mentioned, different, tweak, then they're going to adapt it going on. What you're doing with AI today is going to be different, next year. And one of the big guardrails, I think, adding on to what he said, is making sure that not that someone's doing something bad, that just like they're about to, hey, Bill just put in, the sales for the company from the last quarter into a prompt. There's
Hmm.
alerts to say, hey, don't put stuff in there like that. So all
Yeah.
this noise, it creates great opportunity though for everyone listening. Even if you're just an employee, if you're a manager. I do a lot of HR webinars every week, and there's a lot of AI anxiety out there. From the workforce, like, is this going to take my job? To senior managers, like, hey, we got to figure out what we're going to do with this AI thing because it's on everyone's mind. And then HR has a big part of this because of the training component, but everyone has this big light. Everyone's concerned about making a mistake because all eyes are on this, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this gives people who will embrace it, a chance to become a hero, because every company, to some extent, has AI anxiety. And so if those individuals, whether you're a manager or not, if you're not a manager, but you go into your company and go, hey, this is how we should do this, you're going to become a hero.
Yeah, and I think an important thing too to think about is from a user perspective is the AI. If you already have a pretty good idea of what you're doing in your career field and you're a true expert, it's really gonna like really level up your game, right? But if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna be found out very quickly because you're not gonna catch the mistakes that AI will make, from time to time, and then it'll become glaringly obvious, and you won't be able to speak very intelligently on what you put out, right? Like you can make, oh, that sounds really good, a copy paste, but I don't actually know what I just copy pasted over, right? And I'm trying to pass it off as personal knowledge, and so you're not going to get very far with that. But it can help you learn, it can help you get better, right? But it's not going to make you an expert on anything too. So I think it's really important to control that and be that that human in the loop piece on that. I forget what it is that some you said it triggered that. I thought I should add that on there, right? That's important, I think, because and that's where I think these courses too also do come into play, because the training is because you can then speak more intelligently on what's happening, right, and why it works the way it does, and then learn the different skills based on your role that you have, and then you can kind of bolt on all along the way and learn a bunch of different things, all the way from basic user interaction with Chat GPT or Claude or Google Gemini or Llama, or you pick your choice, you pick your LLM of choice, all the way to building true agentic workflows where you're starting to incorporate code, and maybe you're going to vibe code websites. Maybe you want to vibe code a personal production app, a productivity app that you just run on your desktop, using AI. And so things like vibe coding and, well, what is more of this data analysis stuff that you keep talking about? Well, we got a course for that too. Go learn some of that data related stuff and how you can use AI to mash data and move data around and build data agents, and build that, because that's going to become a big thing where, you're going to employ a lot of agents, right?
And we have
Yeah,
those courses today. So
that's right. That's
we've
right.
been going out, wide. So today's 70 courses. We plan on 250 by the end of the year. And so we have these different practice areas. And just an example now, we have building agents, but we also have a law agent. We'll have a healthcare agent. We have a vibe coding course, which is very exciting because that
Yes.
course is designed for people with um, no coding skills to create their own uh, uh, agent to, yeah, you know your job, you know the workflows, you have, again, Bill with his institutional knowledge thing, but this is how you become, super important. One other thing
Yeah.
too, because we talked about all the changes going on, regardless how you take it, instructor led or e-learning, you get access for a year. There's 2 shots at the exam, but because it's AI, things are going to change over the next year, right? So quarterly, we take a look at things. So when something gets updated, students will get an email saying, hey, Derek added a new case study, or there's a new tool for project managers we put into the course. So again, going back, you could do this all on your own, but then what's going to happen in 9 months when things have changed? That's the beauty of the course, is we're going to remind you there's some updates that are very valuable for you.
That's right. And
All
we,
right.
we, yeah, that's our plan, is to kind of even like support that a lot too, right? And and keep people up to date on what's going on, add supplemental content. It's not just e-learning with us. You actually get access to us, right, as experts, to kind of add on to that. And that's sort of the value add that we bring. Why we decided to resell AI certs to begin with and stuff like that too, which I think would be incredibly valuable, right? You're just not by yourself just listening to a device. But if I have a question, I'm really stuck on something, right? What really is this? I don't understand what I just listened to, right? And maybe we can do some office hours or do something like that set up to, like, support that learning base.
That's why we're so excited to partner with you. I mean, that's the example of my SharePoint guys having that street knowledge to share on top of the curriculum.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming towards the end. So I just wanted to, if anyone has any other questions, like please go ahead and submit them so we just have a little bit of time to answer them before the end. But I wanted to kind of summarize what you guys were talking about, and like, what I took away from it, especially as the individual user. I think because like as we see this change our workforce, one of the things that's going to start coming out is that, like, you know how, like, if you're looking at a job rec right now, like, one of the things they'll say, like, preferred skills or necessary skills or something, and it says like that you have to know how to use Microsoft Office products, or whatever, right? Or you have to have like like you have project management, or like ClickUp, or even certifications. I think we're going to start to see more and more how it's going to ask for experience using LLMs or whatever. And like as Derek said, since those models are being used as the basis for then like more specialized AI, whatever programs within an organization, that you're going to have to know how to use those, and those are going to just become part of basic job recs. So it's going to be really important for people to understand like what they need, and start using those and learn how to use them better, just so they even become more marketable in the workforce. And the other thing that kind of came to mind as you were throwing these words around and talking about like vibe coding and prompt engineering is that there's a whole new lexicon of words. And like, I think that learning how to use those correctly and what they really mean, right? So we talk about like you do prompt engineering to talk to ChatGPT, but like we're not really prompt engineers. Like that's an actual job that has a special set of skills, right? That's not us as the user. And so I just think that both of those points were really important as you guys were talking. And I just wanted to give you, I don't see any more questions right now. So just if you guys can each just do like a quick summary of what you think is going to be the most important thing to take away here today for our participants.
Sure. I think again, you can't get away from those two letters, right? Even if you wanted to, it's here. Everyone's thinking about it. Your company's thinking about it. If you're an executive, the people above you, you need to embrace it. And there's great opportunity to become, a better employee, more satisfaction out of your job because now you got rid of all this nonsense that is taking up several hours out of your week, and just become a true advocate of whatever career you're in, project management, healthcare, law, whatever. If you get away from the noise, this is an exciting time, and you have the tools from us to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think my big takeaway is AI is not going to take your job, but the person who really knows how to use AI the most effectively and then maximizes the use of the time savings created by that effective use is going to take your job because they will run circles around you. Um, and I know that a lot of this stuff can be overwhelming, especially when I talk about it. I think I talk about a lot of things because I'm on this stuff and I'm working on this stuff and I'm studying this stuff 12 plus hours a day, 7 days a week. And I love it. But it is learnable. And so I think where you start is from the beginning. Just try something. Who cares if it's wrong? Who cares if it's not exactly what you want? Who cares, right? Just try something, start small, and then the ideas will come. And then you say, I wonder if I can take this report and this report and this report, and there's like 10 or 15 reports. I wonder if I can mash all these things together and then just tell the AI what kind of insights should I be pulling from these reports, because it's a lot of data, right? And then just see what happens and then start asking questions, right? And so I think it's achievable. I think it's doable. I think it's learnable. Just start from the beginning and it'll happen fast. The idea is as soon as you start using it, because the more you use it, the more context it'll have with you, the more accurate things become over time, and you'll become much more clear on what you're actually trying to accomplish with it. And so I think that's the path to success. And then the courses that we have, I think, will kind of guide you along that path as you go from zero to hero kind of thing. There's something for everybody at every different level, and that's what I'm excited about for everybody.
Well, I just want to say thank you both for taking the time today to talk to us. I hope everybody got something out of it. I put our email or our website address to our main webpage, but also Blue Summit Academy, which is where you'll find all of the AI CERTs classes as we continue to add them, right? Because there's a lot. So that's just going to keep growing. And then I also put my email address in there. If anyone has any questions, they're more than welcome to email me at denisebinson@bluesummitcg.com. We're always interested to hear in like what kind of training people are looking for, where they're having pain points, and then seeing what we could do to address those for not only you as an individual, but at the organizational level too. So again, thank you guys for being here and taking the time today, and we hope to see you in a class soon. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Appreciate y'all.